Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Gyeongseong Creature Season 2, Episode 5. A great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we finally get an answer to what happened to Taesung Jang, like how he ended up getting the Najin. I was not expecting that story to be what it is, and as heartbreaking it is, because my assumption and my hope was like, right, it sucks that everyone that Jang knew is dead. But I thought like, right, they grew old and died. Nope, this story had to stick the knife in you and twist it. So I'd actually completely forgotten about the whole situation with Maeda too, I completely forgot about the bombing at Ishikawa's funeral until they brought it up. Because I'm like, I don't remember if we knew her fate, whether we knew she died or not. I feel like I think I remember like we saw her in bandages at the end. Like I said, none of that clicked in my head because I knew like, oh, Maeda's back, but I didn't fully remember whatever happened to her. So until they brought up the bombing and stuff, which she took a personal offense to that, which I think speaks volumes that she waited 2 years. Cause wasn't that the stinger of this? No, the stinger of the first season was like, right, fine, like the seeing Jang again, but and it seeming like modern day. Like I said at the time, I said the 80s, whatever the case may be. So, which now in retrospect still could have been the case. That could have been the 80s. That could have been Jang in the 80s. In retrospect. But either way, tangents and all that aside. Well, it's all relative, so it's not as tangential as I'm kind of making it, but the fact is that I guess it took her like 2 years to recover from her wounds or whatever. So it took her that long to come. It's sad because it's like, yeah, they were just living everyday life, kind of happy, and just for that to kind of be ripped away because of her. And she's like, right, I offered you friendship, and I even helped you out, and every time I did, you spat it out. And Jang's like, well, you don't truly understand. Being friends means trying to understand each other and doing a favor for someone, not necessarily needing something to be paid back in return. So it's like, you're alive, take that. The fact of the matter is, this isn't your country anymore. The war is lost. You should go back home. You shouldn't even be here. I hope we never see each other again. And then she's got her cronies there, and they attack not only Jang, but even the golden treasure, and end up killing the moment that happened, I was like, oh my god, everyone's gonna die. That was going to be her poetic revenge, is kill everyone just to make him suffer. Now, some of his like other connections, like the lady who runs the place, we never saw she actually got killed. There's a good chance everyone that had a tie to Jang ended up getting killed, but we only focus on the people, that trio, because they're the most important people in him. They are family. Miss Noel, Beam-O, and Mr. Gu, like they are the people that are the most important to her. They are his family. So just seeing that, them getting stabbed and cut, but they weren't going down without a fight. Mr. Gu blasting. So same thing for Miss Noel, and just that scene where like he's like, get away from me, bastards, and because he sees Miss Noel and he's trying to crawl over to her, and then her Beam-O and Mr. Gu get ropes around their neck. You're like, oh my god, because this is all happening inside. So I'm curious like what's happening outside. Like they get to just kill them and bounce, because I guess it's like, right, like I don't know what Korea's like police situation was like at that time, and who's to say Maeda didn't pay off people? I mean, so they were just able to come in there and do that. Like I said, we don't know to the extent. Well, we know she couldn't have killed everyone that had ties to him. Like I said, that I feel like they would have showcased it if that was the case, because let's not forget Yeongil's grandfather. So it's like he was still around to have Yeongil. So it's kind of like, that's why I feel like not everyone connected to Jang died, but everyone in the Golden Treasure, those who were like family to him, are the ones that definitely died. And that was just so horrendous. And then we find out the Najin, how that came about is because she gave it to him, because she's like, oh, like, I thought back to what you said just a moment ago about friends. It's like, no, I think it is up to a friend to kind of pay someone back. And she gave him the Najin, left him in his place, left Beam-O and Mr. Gu hanging, and luckily Miss Noel was alive. Well, luckily, but sadly unluckily. And the moment she woke up, I was like, no, because he's going through the transformation right now. I was like, that's so fucked. He's gonna kill her. I was like, no, that's why they purposely left her alive. They hung up the other two, just to make him suffer. But it's like they left her there wounded, but they wanted her alive because they wanted her to be Jang's first victim, the tragedy of it. I was like, that is horrendous. And that scene is what broke me. Like, when she's coming over and crawling over, he's like, can you help me? She's like, yes. And she's making her way over and she stops. And he's up there trying to stop himself. And just kind of the inverse of episode 3, where Cheok's like, please get away from me. It's Jang still holding on to himself, being like, you need to run away. And her nodding her head no. Because she's like, it's all right. You know what I mean, right? And it's just like, because for her, it's like, Jang is her son. I mean, obviously not biologically, and, they have their connection of, sadly, she was tortured and sold out as mom, but it's like, I've had this responsibility for you, I love you, and I know you love me, and that's just the person he cares about so much despite everything, and it's just like, to be the one who has to essentially kill his mom, and she's okay with it, because she's like, I see what's happening, it's like, it's okay, I don't blame you, and I'm okay, I'm alright. Luckily we don't get to see it, because I'm glad. I don't think my heart could have taken it, but that's horrendous knowing that that's where that is, and Maeda orchestrated all of that. For her, it's like, the whole point of, that's the problem when you have everything, it doesn't fulfill you, and so you become very apathetic towards the world. So the only feeling she gets is when she sees the pain and suffering in other people. That's where her joy is. I was like, yeah, the lady was already unhinged, now she's even more unhinged, and now she's up there kind of smiling like, oh, Cheok, it's been all this time, and it's like, how are you alive? It's like, oh, most likely the same way you're alive. And it's like, why are you people still doing this? Did she find out about Jang? It's like, now it clicks alive. That's why Jang's alive. It's like, you experimented on him too. And she's just kind of smiling. And it's like, why are you doing this? Why are you still here? She's like, why wouldn't we be? Because we don't know what their ultimate goal is at the end of the day. Are they going to like make everyone a Najin? Or is it going to be like, are we going to sell it to the highest bidder of like, oh, don't you want to be superhuman? Or do you want to have superhumans that serve you? Like, I could see it being that type of thing of like, it's all right, you have all the money, you have all the power, but you're just like, once again, when you have everything, she just wants to watch the world burn, I think. And I just don't know in what shape or form she wants that to be. Like I said, whether she wants to make the entire world like that and like them, or whether it's a situation of, I just want to just like, hey, like, just the pain and suffering she'll be able to cause, she gets off on it. And just seeing how tormented Cheok is, because she's like, right, the pain in people's eyes. And it's just like, right, everything, you, me, your mom, Jang, it's just interesting how all this stuff from 80 years ago is not resolved. In fact, she wants to get her revenge that she was never able to get all those years ago. That this is what she wants to pay Cheok back. So she gets put in a room so she can watch the situation with Hojae play out. And Hojae's asking Seongjo, it's like, if I do this, if I get that Najin, well, he doesn't know his name, but it's like, if I get that, will I be able to, like, beat you? And he's like, maybe. Will I be able to save her? And then I think Seonjo's looking like, being interested, like, right, this is the person you care about the most. Because we don't fully know their history, but it seems like he knew maybe Seongjo when he was younger. Because he's like, later on, like, oh, like, I'm not a kid anymore. So it's like, did he know him when he was growing? Because we don't know what... I'm wondering, because of those fake, like, identities or passports or whatever that he found last episode, I wonder, was he stuck here for a while where he was with Seongjo, and then eventually he broke free and he was just living his life. I mean, look at the whole situation with Cheok. For 80 years, she's been here out and about, and at no point did she ever have a run-in with that biotech company until now. That biotech company's been around for a while. At no point did her and Maeda or anyone connected to all this running into each other until now. So it's the strong possibility that Jang was able to keep himself hidden for a very long time until last year when they finally caught up to him. They sniffed him out, maybe, because Maeda was never going to just let him go. So that's the question of, I guess that's why he was let go, why they took his memories away from him, because they wanted to extra make him suffer, because as Maeda puts it, it's like, oh, I want him to, you know what makes hell such a scary thing because it's never ending. And so she wanted to trap him in a hell of like, oh, not knowing who you are and just maybe getting off on the fact that he's walking around having no memory. You'd assume she knows about all that. Like, it doesn't seem like him being there was any of a shock either. So she had to have known like his memories were taken. In fact, she probably ordered it just to make his suffering prolonged. Because it's like, well, if you still have your memories, you're going to put up too much of a fight. So you're going to walk around as an empty shell. And as we know, like, young Gil was tasked with looking after him. But maybe that's also why young Gil didn't want him to go back. Not only because he did say, like, right, you used to be, like, so angry and stuff like that because of everything that he lost, understandably. So that's also like, yeah, I don't want you to have to go through that pain and suffering of remembering all that you've been through, all that you've lost. But I also just like the guy that you are now. Like, you are a little more carefree. You're not burdened by everything that's kind of happened to you in your life and what's happened to you over the past, which includes the past 79 and 80 years. But even Home Dude, who's kind of like the head honcho of all this, who kind of answers directly to Maeda, he was like, do you really want to do this? You're adding in very unexpected variables that could have like, we don't know what the domino effects could be to them in the grand scheme, especially when we have such a specific plan. Throwing in these variables could throw everything off. But the problem is, Maeda's so conceited and so caught up in her revenge, she doesn't care. She needs this to happen. It's like, now that I have this opportunity, I'm not going to miss it. And because she's, even though she wants to act cool, calm, and collected, she's so blinded by her revenge that she lost sight and wasn't thinking this through, because she still believed herself to have everything under control. And hey, maybe she has a lot more control than she's presenting, but this episode also showed her losing control, like, of the situation, because she thought she had, because that's what I'm like, because at first it's like, I was wondering if Seongjo brought Hojae there without anyone knowing, but it's like, no, they purposely had that room set up and had Cheok put there just so she could watch what happens to Hojae. I guess they just weren't expecting him to get away from Seongjo, so I guess that's the wrinkle in it, because they don't realize how important Hojae is. Like, that's in the regards of how important he is to Seongjo, because Seongjo said it last episode, I don't care that you were Jang or the Hojae you've been. I just want you to be back to being the Hojae that I know. So, which kind of makes you wonder, like I said, Hojae had to be one of his previous, maybe the last identity he had before he was Jang, the most recent identity he had. So maybe that kind of indicates how long he had been with. Like I said, I just don't know when in that 80 years he got captured. Was he initially captured and broke away? Or was he living free all that time? Because, I mean, I doubt they came back to get him. Because he probably had no idea how to go about tracking Maeda in them. So that's why I feel like he had to have been captured for a long time. And I don't know. I don't know if they'll ever bother filling in some of those gaps. But it just makes your mind wonder, like, filling in some of that history, some of these 80 years, like, what that gap, 79 to 80 years, that gap, you know? But either way, I love that, like, kind of like this, obviously the star-crossed lover thing that is Cheok and Jang's circumstance. I mean, that's the extra sad thing. It's like, right, neither one knew the other one was out there. They both thought they were living alone. Doesn't seem like they ever found new love. It's like, how can you find new love after, like, the person that you found, that you've been through all that you went through together all those years ago, and then kind of like, right, you're living I mean, plus on top of that, Jang didn't remember, but he was also, like, drowning in that sorrow too. And I feel like he was a lot angrier than Cheok was, because there was a little bit of a difference, because it's like, well, Cheok's circumstances is like, she died in his arms, plus he wanted his revenge, plus his entire family got killed because of Maeda, so he had a lot more things up. I mean, don't get it twisted, Cheok has just as much anger in her because of what happened to her mom and her dad, but, you know, they've both been carrying anger, but it seems like, at least when we met Cheok, it just seemed like she might not have been as angry, because she went through what she went through. She kind of, to some extent, dealt with those losses, but now it's like, because she at least hoped, like, Jang got to live his life, because the last time she saw him before she left was, like, right after coming back and awakening, and it's like she sees him, and everyone's celebrating after Korea got freed, so she bounced after that. And like I said, we see they had 2 years of peace before Maeda came in like the Grim Reaper. But anyway, I love the back and forth between Jang crawling towards the tank, getting in there, and the I'm sure the question becomes like, well, how did he get in there? Did Seong-jo help him in there? Like, all we saw him was crawling towards the tank. It's like, well, it didn't seem like he'd be able to stand up to get himself in there. Whatever the case may be. Once again, those are details like I don't actually care. I don't need an answer for it. But like him getting the Najin put inside of him, and then Cheok fighting Big Dude. So I love that back and forth, especially when like Jang popped up behind Seong-jo and he tries to fight back, and Seong-jo's getting his ass whooped because he seems so. Because even Cheok doesn't have an easy time fighting him, but it just seems like, I guess, just naturally, for whatever reason, Jang is just like naturally stronger than even Seong-jo, because he seems like he's like the toughest one, but who knows? Maybe Big Dude is. Maybe head honcho dude that I mean, to be fair, Seong-jo didn't fight him, but Home Dude like was slapping the piss out of him like in first or second episode. So either way, like Seong-jo's like gets easily outclassed, but it's also like he's also not fighting as hard as he could because he gets knocked out and then he kind of gets up and he sees that Ho-jae's gone, but you can tell he's also happy to have Ho-jae back. So Cheok going toe-to-toe with Big Dude, and it's like, well, can't fully match you power to power, so I just need to slip away from you. So the Kuroko's get sent after them. We don't know what they look like under their mask, or maybe they're failed experiments, but it's like they're very humanoid. They're not full monsters like the other three in the basement were, or Cheok's mom was, but it's just like, I guess they're like in a lot more of an in-between state, but they're more failures, I guess. It's just, when you look at the amount they have, it's insane. I mean, we also know Jang ended up killing quite a few of them, like before he got his memories taken away. I wonder, do they do seem to get up, but they also seem like they do die. So I'm wondering, like, maybe their healing factors aren't nearly as strong as like people like Jang and Cheok and the others, or even the full-blown monsters like Cheok's mom were. They probably have the stronger healing factor. Maybe the Kurokos don't. Whatever the case may be, both groups, both Cheok and Jang, tearing through the groups in front of them, and it's just like, it's so badass to see, especially when he kind of like shoryukens some of them and just like uppercuts them into the ceiling. You're like, Jesus. And I love the sound effect of the like impact, because it's like, oh yeah, he's hitting these motherfuckers hard. But it's like, yeah, like he's like, I let go of a lot of things. Like, you know, he was consumed in his rage. He was consumed with everything. And it's just like, all he wanted was to see her again, to hold her in his arms just one more time is all he wanted. So the two are reunited, but sadly, it's like, well, he was so caught up in the fight, he accidentally stabs her. Luckily, she has her healing factor, because it's like, well, if she was a normal human, she'd probably be severely dead at that moment. But it's like, because, you know, sadly, you've seen that story before where someone's like so heightened in battle, they accidentally hurt the person they care about in that moment. They were so trapped in the moment of seeing red. But Seong-jo shows up and he helps them out, because like I said, he has no loyalty to this organization per se. He likes Ho-jae and he just wants to help him out, because he even calls him bro later on. So it's like they had a really good bond, whatever it may have been. And like I said, the entire time, Maeda does not seem happy, because she thought she had this under control. And once again, Home Dude told you there were variables in this. I think they all also underestimated how important, like, what Jang meant to Seong-jo. But either way, Jang is leading them away, and I love Seong-jo being like, oh yeah, he destroyed everybody else and then he destroyed me and got away with the woman, so yeah, they went towards like section 5 or whatever. And I love that Home Dude looks at one of the bodies and he sees a hole in it from when Seong-jo like used his tendrils to like stab the guy, and Seong-jo's kind of like, okay, what is he noticing? But he kind of let it go. But it's like, I don't know, because he's not fully sure of what Cheok can do, so he doesn't know for sure if she did that or not. It's not until Big Dude was like, yo, I was running this way after them. Did you not see them? And in that moment, he's like, bring me Seongjo. Because he's like, I know that bastard lied to me. It's like, he kind of let that go at the time, but now it's like with this and in conjunction with that hole in that Kuroko's neck, it's like, no, that bastard, he's behind all of this. But yeah, he ended up helping. He got Cheok out of here because and I even love like when Jang was asking him, he's like, can you do that for me? And he said Seongjo. In that moment, he looked at him because it's like, wait, you remember me. You remember, so your memories are back. Because I don't think he knew, maybe he did and I'm misremembering because I'm like, did he know Seongjo's name before now? I don't think he had ever said his name because we only know his name because the others are calling him that. Because yeah, I don't think he ever told Jang his name, who he was. I think he avoided that. So that's why that moment matters of like, right, you remember me. Not unless I'm mistaken and wrong and he has introduced himself to them, but I'm pretty sure he didn't. But do correct me if I'm wrong. And I love that. But like I said, the whole Jang put his head on him. He's like, yo, stop. Don't pat me on the head. I told you I don't like that. I'm not a kid anymore. But then he says a line of, he's like, yeah, about that day a year ago. He's like, sorry, I got there too late. So I guess he was going to try and warn or at least back up Jang, but by the time like he could have gotten there, he had already gotten captured and they were doing what they did to him, so he couldn't really do anything. So he's like, and like I said, calls him bro. So I guess like maybe Seongjo was fairly young whenever they were around each other in that time frame, whatever that time frame may have been. Maybe Seongjo was still like either still just a kid or a teenager, whatever the case may have been. Because we actually don't know like how his aging process worked. Once again, he was naturally born like this. So not unless they remove the Najin from him at some point in time, let him get a little older and then implant it in it. I doubt it, but who knows. But I was kind of scared, but as we got to the end of the episode, I was like, please don't let anything happen. Because he's looking for her, and I'm like, oh, please don't let anything happen. And they're across the street from each other. And I'm like, this is a perfect opportunity for something to happen. But then he walks over to her. I was like, okay, good. And then they proceed to make out because it's like, yo, this has been 80 years in the making. So kind of ending off on a very happy note. I mean, I think there's 2 episodes left. I don't know if there's only 7 episodes in this season. Because I don't think they're doing the part 1, part 2 like they did the first season, where like 3 episodes got released later. So there might only be 7 episodes. I'll probably wait till I finish with episode 7 before I looked it up, just so I don't accidentally stumble across some spoilers. But man, it's kind of a happy note to end off on, but there's still a lot to be filled in on this because, well, another angle to this is we still had Jisoo back at his place trying to investigate, which Gyeongseong's mom like showed up there, which I thought was interesting because Seongjo was like, oh, you could let out 71, that kid, this might be his time. So I was like, is Gyeongseong supposed to be Gyeongseong? I was like, is he supposed to be 71? Because it does seem like he's coming into his own like in that moment, like the Najin's taking over, so he seems to be the only, like I said, survivor of that particular group of experiments. So we'll see. And that's going to be sad when he's reunited with his mom and eventually probably has to kill her. But hopefully they'll be able to prevent that. But I love that she ran into Jisoo as Jisoo was like investigating stuff. And it's like, who are you? It's like, no, who are you? And it's like, well, I'm friends with the owners. And it's like, well, I'm not as close to them. It's like, well, I'm going to call the police. Hey, don't worry, I am a cop. And it's like, oh, why are you here? It's like, after a suspect. And it's like, oh, you think Jang is a suspect? She's like, there you go. Always going after innocent people and letting the actual culprit get away. It's like, you know what? Call your captain. She's like, wait, what? I love that. It's also like Asia is heavily built off of respect for your elders. So it is that thing of like, I'm the authority in this situation. I'm a cop. It's like, yeah, but she's an older woman. She's an Ajima, so you kind of have to listen to her. So she's like, call up your captain right now. And she's like, almost like, okay, I'll do it. Calls him up. And she's like, yo, I'm the antenna from this particular location. I was like, does he have ties to, like, well, I guess he knows enough about Ho Jae's circumstance in his network. So for her being like, yo, I'm this antenna, and it's like, oh, I guess that was enough. And she's like, yo, I need you to come down here. And he's like, all right, I will. It's just like, once again, it's like, it's that hierarchy of like, yeah, she's an Ajima, so you have to listen to her. Respect your elder type of situation. So either way, So, like I said, not everything's cleared up because we still have to deal with the biotech. We still have Maeda going to be searching for her revenge, and they're going to be, targeted. I mean, well, you have Jisoo trying to find them as, suspect. Well, more specific. Well, at the last episode, she was like, oh, is that woman with you also the killer? Because, well, Hojay did say, like, oh, I think this woman is the killer before he found out, well, she wasn't the killer, and now he knows who, so there's a lot going on there. I'm curious to see where these next episodes end up taking us, where the next episode in particular ends up taking us. I'm excited to see, now that our star-crossed lovers are reunited, what happens from here. I mean, I think for them, the biggest thing is, are they going to try and get the Najins removed completely? Like, well, it happened to Hojay, but the fact is he lost all his memories in the process. So do we stay like this? Like, what's going to happen? I'm sure the biggest thing is we need to burn this to the ground. We need to kill Maeda and put a stop to this. What we thought we stopped all those years ago, we need to permanently burn this to the ground so it never happens again, so that no one ever finds himself in these situations. So that's my immediate thought. We'll ultimately have to wait to see where the next episode takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.